Find out who you are and do it on purpose. Dolly Parton. Most people go through life like actors trapped in their own roles. They smile according to expectations, choose according to the crowd, love what others tell them is lovable, and gradually lose their original inner voice. There are those who spend their youth running fast, yet ultimately have no idea where they are heading. They are like ships with full sails in the middle of the ocean, powerful but without a compass. Thus, the further they go, the more lost they become. Finding your true self is not about creating a perfect version of yourself, but about having the courage to strip away the masks you have worn for too long. It is the moment a person stops living for recognition and starts living for peace. Because deep within every human being, there exists a true ego, a place untouched by the fear of failure or the hunger to be loved. But to reach that place, one must walk through a painful journey of facing loneliness, doubt, and the voids within the soul. Just as a diamond requires thousands of years of pressure to shine, a human only matures when they dare to face their own darkness. A purposeful life does not necessarily have to be grand in the eyes of the world. Purpose does not lie in becoming famous or superior to others, but in the feeling of waking up each morning knowing exactly why you exist. Some find meaning in healing others, some find it in art, in family, or simply in being a kind soul amidst a chaotic world. When people live true to their nature, the energy they radiate changes. They no longer need to prove their worth because their very presence is already of value. The more a person understands themselves, the lighter they become. No more meaningless competition, no more living in the cage called other people's opinions. The mind then becomes like the surface of a lake after a storm, no longer violent, but deep, reflecting the entire sky. The greatest success in life is not becoming someone in the eyes of the world, but finally getting to become yourself. Live life to the fullest and focus on the positive. Cameron. Humans tend to look at what they lack rather than what they have. The mind, when fed with anxiety and negativity for too long, becomes like a sealed room. The air grows stifling, light cannot enter, and all hope gradually loses its shape. But when a person learns to turn their gaze toward the light, their life begins to change from within. Living to the fullest does not mean rushing frantically or forcing oneself to be extraordinary. It is about being fully present in every moment, feeling life with the full depth of one's emotions. Those who live fully are those who dare to love sincerely, dare to fail, and dare to start over after every fall. They understand that life is not a contest to see who is more perfect, but a journey to discover how strong and vast their heart can be. A candle, however small, can still burn brightly in the dark, and so can humans' true value lies not in how much they possess, but in how they light up the life around them. Focusing on the positive is not about denying suffering or pretending everything is always fine. It is the ability to see the seeds of hope even in the stormiest days. Some lose themselves after a single failure, while others turn their wounds into strength. The difference lies in how they choose to view life. A pessimist sees the rain as an obstacle, while an optimist hears the gentle sound of the earth being reborn. Like soil, if you sow too much fear, despair will grow, but if you sow gratitude and faith, peace will bloom. The most beautiful thing about positive energy is its ability to spread. An optimistic person is like the sun in the middle of winter. Without needing to try too hard, they are still enough to make others feel warm. They do not walk through life with the heaviness of a mere survivor, but with the vibrancy of a soul that is truly alive. And in the end, we realize that happiness is not about how perfect life is, but whether we have enough courage to love this life, even with all its scratches and scars. Don't waste a minute not being happy. If one window closes, run to the next window or break down a door. Brooke Shields. Too many people spend their entire lives standing before a closed door, clutching the rusty key of regret, while the life behind them still offers countless unexplored paths. They suffer not because they lost an opportunity, but because they lack the courage to move on. The greatest tragedy for a human is not failure, but letting themselves slowly die within their own procrastination. Happiness is not a reward reserved only for the lucky. It is a state of mind created by how one chooses to respond to life. One person can live in abundance yet feel a constant spiritual void, while another can walk through storms and still keep the light in their eyes. The human mind is like a garden. If you only water fear and disappointment, weeds will choke every path. But when you know how to nurture gratitude, hope, and faith, even the most arid land can bloom. Happiness is not found when everything is perfect, but when the heart still possesses the capacity to be moved by life. A closed door often makes people think that everything has come to an end. But in truth, it is often life's way of forcing us to leave a place where we no longer belong. Some see a closed door as a period, while the strong see it as a challenge. They understand that fate is not created by what happens, but by how they respond. If there is no path left, they create one. If a wall stands in their way, they turn themselves into a wave strong enough to shatter it. For a person's greatest energy lies not in muscle strength, but in a will that refuses to surrender. Life is ever-changing, just as the sky cannot forever be engulfed in storms. There are losses that seem to drown a person, but later become the very things that rescue them from a life heading in the wrong direction. Do not waste time drowning in closed doors. Step forward with a heart full of fire. For a person only truly ages when they stop hoping, stop moving, and stop believing that there is still a horizon waiting for them. The secret to life is just to keep going. Keep going. Tyler Perry. When faced with suffering, the instinct for many is to stop, withdraw, and view life as a dead end. They let disappointment shroud their minds like a thick fog, to the point of forgetting that darkness only exists when one stands still for too long. Life never promised ease, but it always offers an exit for those who refuse to stop their stride. Strength can be found in moments of resounding victory, but true strength lies in the ability to keep going when you are exhausted inside. There are days when the soul feels as heavy as a stone, everything around becomes meaningless, and simply waking up is a battle. But it is in those moments that continuing forward, however slowly, becomes the most courageous act. A river cannot cut through rock because of a momentary explosion of power, but because it persists in flowing without ceasing. So it is with humans. It is not a strong will for one day that makes the difference, but the ability to not stop after 1,000 times of wanting to quit. Hardships in life are like great storms. Standing in the middle of a tempest, one often imagines that the sky will be dark forever. But every storm has its limits. It is just that the faint-hearted often turn back before the light appears. What causes many to fail is not a lack of talent, but stopping too soon. The negative mind always whispers, "There is no more hope." But life often opens a new door just after the moment one thinks they have reached the very end. Moving forward doesn't mean you always have to be strong or perfect. Sometimes, it's just about trying for one more day, taking one more step, believing one more time in yourself. Some wounds need time to heal, but time only heals those who continue to live. A seed must be buried deep in the dark before it can sprout into a green tree reaching for the sun. The trials we experience are the same. They are not meant to destroy us, but to make our souls stronger and deeper. One day looking back, we will realize the most miraculous thing was not that we never fell, but that after everything, we kept walking. And sometimes, just by not stopping, you have already conquered life in the most powerful way. It is the nature of the human being to believe that an unpleasant idea is untrue, and then easily find arguments against it. Sigmund Freud. Because truth is not always gentle. There are truths as sharp as a blade, cutting into self-esteem and shattering the illusions that took years to build. Instead of facing it, many choose denial. They do not fight against falsehood, they fight against the discomfort that the truth causes. Like a fortress, always seeking to protect the image they believe about themselves. When an idea appears to threaten that belief, the brain immediately reacts as if facing danger. That is why people can easily dismiss a sincere piece of advice, but are ready to believe in meaningless flattery. They are not seeking the truth, they are seeking a sense of security. And the most dangerous part is that humans are very good at disguising that avoidance with clever logic. They create a series of arguments to prove they are right, but deep down, what they really want to protect is not the truth, but a fragile, trembling ego. Some spend their whole lives living in a distorted mirror of their own making. They only see what makes them feel comfortable and unconsciously discard everything that forces them to change. Like a patient who refuses a diagnosis out of fear of the disease, humans sometimes deny the truth not because it is wrong, but because it is too right. The more the truth touches a deep-seated weakness, the stronger the reaction of resistance. This is the psychological paradox of mankind. The thing we need to hear most is often the thing we want to escape most. Growth begins at the moment one is brave enough to sit still with an unpleasant truth without rushing to resist. That is when they stop seeing everything that goes against them as an attack and start seeing it as an opportunity to understand themselves more deeply. A weak mind seeks comfort. A strong mind seeks the truth, even when the truth causes pain. For it is precisely the things that make us most uncomfortable that are often the clearest mirrors reflecting the parts of ourselves we need to change. Life does not develop a person through constant coddling. Metal must go through fire to become sturdy, and the soul must go through difficult truths to become profound. Ultimately, what limits a person is not a lack of intelligence, but a lack of courage to face what they do not want to believe. To find out what is truly individual in ourselves, profound reflection is needed. And all of a sudden, we realize how uncommonly difficult the discovery of individuality is. Everyone lives with themselves every day, but very few truly understand who they are. Most people walk through life with an identity built from the voices of society, the expectations of family, and comparisons with others. They clothe their souls in borrowed personality traits, until after many years, they themselves can no longer distinguish between their true self and the role they play to be accepted. The journey of self-discovery is not about finding something new, but a process of peeling away the artificial layers that have clung to the mind for too long. Deep reflection is a form of solitary but necessary dialogue. It is when a person dares to sit still in silence, no longer led by the noise of the world, to listen to the fragile voice from within. But that very moment is what many fear. For when distractions are gone, people start to see the voids in their souls, the hidden insecurities, and the truth that they have lived for too long according to others' desires. Exploring individuality is truly difficult because it requires one to abandon the security of being like everyone else. The crowd always brings comfort, while personal identity often begins with a sense of being out of place. Some spend their whole lives trying to become the perfect version in the eyes of the world, yet never once ask what they truly want. They are like trees pruned excessively to fit a garden, to the point they no longer grow in their natural shape. And then one day, amidst success or recognition, they still feel empty because the soul cannot be happy when it lives far from its true essence. The most unique thing about a human is not their talent or appearance, but the original part of their soul that cannot be copied. But to reach that part, one must be brave enough to face themselves without a mask. Self-discovery is like digging deep into the ground to find an underground stream. The deeper you dig, the more obstacles you encounter. The closer you get to the truth, the more it hurts because you must shatter old illusions. But it is that very journey that creates the depth of a human being. Those who do not understand themselves live by the world's reactions. Those who understand themselves live by inner guidance. And when a person truly finds their own identity, they no longer long to be like anyone else. They begin to shine in the most natural way, no need to strain, no need to prove anything, because authenticity itself has a stronger pull than any perfect shell. People often say that this or that person has not yet found himself, but the self is not something one finds, it is something one creates. Thomas Szasz. Humans are not born with a fixed identity like a completed statue. We are like soft clay in the hands of time, and it is our choices, hurts, aspirations, and the way we react to life that gradually mold our shape. Many live in a state of vague waiting. They wait for a day to find themselves, wait for a grand inspiration, wait for life to suddenly provide a clear answer. But the more they wait, the more lost they become. Because the self does not appear in passivity. It is formed in action. One does not become strong by thinking about strength, but by going through pain without falling. One does not discover courage in safety, but in the times when, despite trembling, they decide to move forward. Humans create themselves every day, like a patient artist carving each stroke onto the rough stone of life. The interesting thing is that most of us want to find ourselves because it sounds easier than having to create it. Searching gives the impression that the answer already exists somewhere, while creating forces people to take responsibility for their own lives. And that responsibility is terrifying, because when they understand that the self is something created, they can no longer fully blame circumstances, the past, or others. They must face the truth that every repeated action is building their future self. Each time they choose silence before fear, they create a weaker version of themselves. Each time they dare to face difficulty, they forge another layer of strength for their soul. The human self is not a hidden treasure to be dug up, but a project constantly under construction. And like any beautiful construction, it needs time, patience, and sometimes being torn down to start over from scratch. There are stages in life that break a person, but it is from those shards that a deeper version can be formed. Graphite under pressure becomes diamond. Humans under trial can also become the most brilliant version of themselves. Stop waiting for a miracle to happen. Start living more intentionally, realizing that each day you are writing your own identity. And finally, yourself is no longer something to be found far away, but something created from the courage to live true to the values you choose. Time is a created thing. To say I don't have time is like saying I don't want to. Most of us do not truly lack time. We are simply allocating it to things that do not reflect our true values and priorities. Everyone is given the same 24 hours a day, but their lives become completely different based on how they choose to use each moment. Time does not just disappear. It is traded, consumed, or wasted on things that the mind allows to take over. People often use the phrase, "I don't have time," as a polite cloak to hide the truth that they do not care enough, are not determined enough, or are not brave enough. A person can say they don't have time to take care of themselves, yet spend hours drifting aimlessly in distraction. Some say they don't have time for family, yet waste energy on meaningless races for recognition. This shows that time is not just a matter of the clock, but a matter of consciousness. Wherever the heart truly points, people always find space for it. When they love something deeply enough, they will rearrange their entire life to hold on to it. Many act as if they will live forever, so they easily postpone the most important things. They postpone words of love, postpone dreams, postpone starting to live truly as themselves. But time is like sand slipping through fingers. The more you try to hold it with indifference, the faster it is lost. At some point, what causes the most pain is not failure, but realizing you have lived too many days in a state of unconsciousness. They existed, but never truly lived. They let life be led by inertia instead of intentional choices. They are like leaves swept along by the current, busy from morning till night, but not knowing where they are going. Such a life easily drains the soul, because energy is scattered on too many things that bring no meaning. Only when learning to say no to unnecessary things do people truly have time for what is most important: peace, love, growth, and themselves. Time is not something we find somewhere out there. It is created from what we prioritize every day. And ultimately, how a person uses their time is the clearest reflection of who they are. For life is not measured by the number of years lived, but by the things we have truly given our hearts to. Even if I knew that tomorrow the world would go to pieces, I would still plant my apple tree. This is not naivety before reality, nor is it an attitude of denying the darkness of life. On the contrary, it is the highest expression of a soul that has understood the fragility of existence, yet still chooses hope. The most mature person is not the one who has never seen breakdown, but the one who, after everything, is still gentle enough to sow a seed into the earth. Life guarantees nothing. Everything humans love can change. Relationships fade, dreams break, even the things that seem most solid sometimes collapse in an instant. Understanding this, many become cynical and cold. They stop believing, stop trying, stop hoping, as if not expecting will help them hurt less. But a soul without hope is like abandoned land, no longer in pain from storms, but no longer alive. Planting an apple tree in the face of doomsday is the deepest human dignity. No matter how chaotic the world is, I still choose to create something good. That is the gentlest yet most powerful resistance against meaninglessness. For when everything around sinks into despair, the act of continuing to build, love, and sow becomes a deeply spiritual act. Like a small candle in a great storm, that light may not save the whole world, but it saves the human part within us from becoming the darkness. People often think that hope only exists when the future is certain. But true hope appears most clearly when everything is uncertain. The strong are not those who believe life will always be good, but those who, even when seeing the possibility of collapse, continue to live meaningfully. They understand that the value of an action lies not entirely in the result, but in what that action turns them into. A person planting an apple tree on the final day of the world may not live to see the sweet fruit, but the very act of bending down to sow the seed has made their soul noble. Perhaps the most beautiful thing about humans is the ability to create meaning even in the most fragile circumstances. Birds still sing, though they do not know what tomorrow brings. Flowers still bloom, though their life cycle is short. And humans, though they know they are finite, can still love, dream, and continue to cultivate life. That is not weakness, but a form of the deepest strength, the strength of a soul that does not let fear destroy its capacity for hope. Maybe you are searching among the branches for what only appears in the roots. Rumi. Humans tend to treat the surface instead of looking at the source. They try to fix emotions through distraction, seek self-worth through the eyes of others, and try to fill inner voids with achievements, money, or temporary relationships. But like a tree with rotting roots, no matter how green the leaves are painted, it still cannot truly live healthily. Modern life has accustomed people to speed and surfaces. People want quick answers, quick healing, quick happiness. But the deepest things in the soul do not lie in easily visible places. A lingering insecurity may stem from a childhood not properly loved. Frequent anger sometimes hides feelings of weakness and fear. A life constantly trying to prove oneself may only spring from a silent root, the feeling that one has never been valuable enough. But instead of going down to that deep layer, many only keep pruning branches and leaves, changing jobs, changing lovers, changing environments without understanding that the place needing true healing lies much deeper. The roots of humans are the invisible beliefs they carry in their minds every day. It is those beliefs that silently decide how they love, how they fear, and how they view life. A person who always thinks they are unworthy will self-destruct the good things that come to them. A person who grows up lacking affection may spend their whole life seeking recognition. And most painful is that many live an entire lifetime without ever realizing what is controlling them from within. They are like someone standing in the forest, constantly blaming the crooked branches, yet never once bowing down to look at the dry, dying roots beneath the earth. When people are brave enough to return to their own roots, that is not easy, for going deep into the interior always hurts more than running away on the surface. Silence, honesty, and the courage to face old wounds we once tried to forget are required. But just as a tree can only soar high when its roots are deep enough, humans can only live steadily when they clearly understand the foundation within themselves. So many spend their whole lives searching for meaning outside, while what they truly need lies in the most secluded place of the soul. And sometimes, the answer to all chaos does not lie in having to go further, but in returning closer to oneself, where the roots of peace are still silently waiting to be touched.